The pieces are all in place to make Elbaf in the next arc one of the best arcs in One Piece if Oda follows through with this vision. So in today's video, I want to try to paint the picture for you for Enies Lobby 2.0 after Elbaf, because I think that there is incredible setup for this possibility, but we need to look at if it's actually possible. First thing that I want to say is that last chapter kind of shit on this theory a little bit, considering that Gabon came in and saved Luffy and is currently stalling Emu. If this Enies Lobby 2.0 thing was happening, we would need Emu to leave soon. And Gabon stepping in here might throw a kind of thorn in that. And the fact that Loki is starting to get healed by Gerd kind of shows my other theory is starting to be correct, that Loki's going to be coming back in to fight Emu, possibly in hybrid form. So it seems like we're staying in Elbaf, but all of this still could happen. It could just happen a little bit later, because it's possible that Gabon gets packed up pretty quick, which I think might happen considering he's weaker than Loki and Luffy. But what do I mean by Enies Lobby 2.0? Why do I think we need another arc after this that connects to this arc? Well, the first reason is that we are fucking outclassed. We just cannot do anything against Emu and these other Omen boosted fighters. Luffy just got absolutely shit on in the last chapter. Luffy is absolutely packed up and he is leagues below Emu at this point. So in order for Luffy to beat Emu, he's going to need the most insane power up possible in a very short amount of time, which I just don't think is very good. In order for Luffy to win, he's going to need a fucking gear 5 level power up and jump in power in order to get to Emu's level. So I just don't see how that's going to be good for the story. So I really don't think Oda's going to do that, because Oda's a good writer. And when we look at even the other fight between Zoro and Sanji, it's a little bit closer in strength, but they're still not able to do anything. And so far, the world government has looked like shit since Egghead, so this would actually be really good if they get some time in the stronger position. So I think instead of rushing these power-ups, instead of forcing Zoro and Sanji to get stronger right now and beat these new powered-up versions of Summers and Killingham, we can draw it out. We can have them lose now, and maybe in a second arc, a connecting arc, they get stronger in between, and then they finally win. Same thing for Luffy. Instead of him needing to climb massive amounts of levels in one arc like he did in Wano, we can give him some time to train in this little mini arc with like Loki or something like that, and he can come back into the fight later in the secondary arc. This would be very similar to Water 7 at Enies Lobby. Water 7, Luffy gets shit on. Then he's able to come back in Enies Lobby with gear 2nd, gear 3rd. He's able to beat these guys later on. And if we look at Wano, Luffy gets defeated at the beginning of the arc, we get a training arc in Udon, and then Luffy comes back up to fight Kaido again later in the arc. So there's always this period where we lose to the main villain, then we need to have this growing period, and then we finally come back into it. But Luffy needs to grow so much in such a little amount of time that it would just seem a lot shittier. It would seem rushed, in my opinion, if Luffy gets all of these power-ups in Elbaf. It would be so much better if Luffy and Loki both lose to Emu here, Zoro and Sanji lose their fights as well, and then in a secondary arc we go to the Holy Land or something like that, and we get to fight them again after they've had some time to train. In my opinion, that would be much more rewarding. That would give a lot more stakes to the arc as a whole. And in my opinion, there's a lot of other reasons that the Strawhats need to go to the Holy Land. There are so many other things we need to do there. There's so many holes that we need to close. So if the Strawhats, they win right here in Elbaf, a lot of these things just can't happen, or I just don't see how they can happen. The first two things are obvious, in my opinion. We need to explore the Holy Land. When are we ever going to get to see the entire Holy Land? When are we going to get to see all of the levels? When are we going to get to see the freezer? When are we going to get to explore any of these places? If we defeat the world government right here, we're never going to go to the Holy Land. There's no point in fighting them again. And if it's not then the only other time would be like some type of raid on the Holy Land, which would make the most sense right after this arc. And on top of that, we need the Void Century flashback. We've been getting a ton of Emu and Joy Boy related shit lately. Emu has been bringing up Joy Boy so much, and we've already had the Zebek, you know, the God Valley flashback. So we only have really one big flashback left, and that's the Void Century flashback. So that needs to happen very fucking soon in the story. So what better place than at the Holy Land? And the last thing is that the Straw Hats usually bring the fight, especially against the world government. Like, I'm thinking Enies Lobby, where they're standing against the world government, it's less likely that we end the fight against Emu here with Emu coming to Elbaf. Like, it really feels like the Straw Hats always have a raid on something. Like, we're raiding Kaido's island, we're raiding Enies Lobby. So it just feels like we need that motivated Straw Hat thing where they're going here to do a thing. And it just makes so much sense. We need to go there to get our get back against them because we lose here in Elbaf. We need to go there so we can explore the Holy Land and we can learn about the Void Century flashback, because when else are we going to get it? And on top of that, there's other things that we need in the fucking Holy Land. The final road poneglyph seemingly is held by a government official. If the final road poneglyph is held by the government, why would they keep it on the water where it can be attacked by pirates? The safest place to put it is in the Holy Land. So it's like, oh, we need to get this final road poneglyph. We only need one more to go. Let's put it in the Holy Land where we need to go beat them. We need to go explore the Holy Land. We need to go learn the Void Century stuff. Then you also have the Elbaf children and Gunko. If Emu wins here, Shuri is going back to the world government. I think that could happen anyway, but the Elbaf children, if we lose in Elbaf, they're going to the world government. So we would need to go to the Holy Land to get the final world poneglyph, to get the Elbaf children, to get Shuri. Shuri could be our new Robin for the arc, but we'd also need to go there to learn the Void Century stuff and to explore the Holy Land because Oda needs to cover that stuff. And last but not least, we need to connect these factions together. There are a lot of factions that need to interact with the world government and the Straw Hats combined. I think the most obvious one is the Revolutionary Army. I mean, Sabo is literally Luffy's brother, Dragon is Luffy's dad. I just don't see how we don't get a raid on the Holy Land with the world government fighting the Revolutionary Army and the Straw Hats. Like, I just don't see how that doesn't happen. What if we lose in Elbaf and the Revolutionary Army comes to Elbaf? And this is where we prepare for war. Shanks was just talking about in this chapter about we need to have a war against the world government. And when you look at some other characters like Vivi, Vivi just had the Cobra Death situation. So Vivi is very heavily tied with Emu, even aside from the Cobra Death, because Emu always has a picture of Vivi. So Vivi is very connected with the Holy Land, and it seems like Vivi is going to be connected with the Straw Hats very soon because of the X on Luffy's hand in his bounty poster. Or maybe not the bounty poster, whatever, the newspaper clipping that we saw the X there. That was Vivi reaching out to the Straw Hats. So that has to be acted on very soon. And then lastly, Blackbeard. Like, when is Blackbeard going to be connected to the Straw Hats? Blackbeard and the Straw Hats need to start getting close to each other soon in the story. They have not been at odds with each other at all throughout the story. So if they're going to be the end game, villains that the Straw Hats need to fight, we need to start getting them close to each other. So I think the perfect scenario would be like the Revolutionary Army in Vivi comes to Elbaf after Luffy is defeated by Emu. They're all training, they're all getting ready for a war, for a raid, and we have the Revolutionary Army with the Straw Hats and Elbaf going on a raid in the Holy Land. And then Blackbeard, that's where he makes his play. That's where he makes his attack on Emu. In the fray of all that, maybe Blackbeard comes in and he kills Emu and steals Emu's power. That's when Luffy and Blackbeard can have their first interaction in a long time. So it just seems like we need to wrap up all this world government shit and the final road poneglyph, and this just makes the most sense to me. And overall, I would rather have this than anything else, because if Luffy wins here in Elbaf, it just seems so rushed to me. And I don't know how we cover all of these other things. How do we cover all of these other things in the Holy Land, all of these other connections between the Straw Hats and the world government too? How do we get all of these factions involved if Luffy wins right here? It just doesn't make sense to me. So I truly think that we need to extend this into a part 2, and Oda has said that he plans on ending this arc very abruptly. So maybe that's because there's a part 2 where we go to the Holy Land. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think I'm crazy? That's all I got for today's video. Like and subscribe. See ya.